Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Sheena Whyatt. I'm going to be your chair for this session this morning, first one in our track today. I have very little to do at this point apart from be the glamorous assistant and effectively hand you over to our speaker today. What we're going to be doing is going through some information given to us here by Dave Buglass from Tesco Bank. And towards the end of the session, we're going to open it up to Q&A and discussion. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our speaker this morning, Dave Buglass from Tesco Bank.
Okay, thank you. It's probably those moments when you wish you were Dave Smith or Dave Johnson or Dave Black. So it's Buglass. Remember the programme Keeping Up Appearances, and it was Hyacinth, Bouquet and Bucket. So I always get called Buglass or Douglas, but yeah. So when I book a restaurant, it's Dave Smith. It's always much easier. Okay, listen, thank you for coming. Great crowd, good turnout. I've done my usual, I've done all my slides and I've done all my notes. I actually wrote my script this morning because actually it gave me a wee bit of time yesterday to have a look around. So I'm going to ditch it. So for anybody that's heard me speak before, I come with a bit of a health warning. I probably won't stick to the script. I might talk quickly at times because I get quite passionate and energetic. And you actually might walk out here at the end and you think, actually, what did I hear? What did I learn? And you can be a little bit offensive. So just to begin with, I'm not offensive. I'm honest. I've been in this business probably for over too long anyway. I'm 45-year-old. I'm 24 years in L&D and HR. So in the last couple of years, I think I found my voice. It was funny as well. Somebody was reminding me yesterday that apparently I'm still the Chief Learning Officer of the Year until tonight, because I think it's the LPI Awards. So the new one will be named. So hopefully that comes with a wee bit of authority and a bit of a stamp. But I've got loads of slides, right? But it's not death by PowerPoint. There's loads of pictures. I haven't been here for 10 years, okay? I haven't been to the Learning Technologies Conference for 10 years. So I had an interesting conversation with a girl yesterday from Sponge. I did a podcast, and she asked me what had changed since I was last here, or what had changed in my time in learning. And I think for me, the one thing that hopefully will come out in this presentation is that it's not about the technology and it's not about the content. Whilst obviously things are evolving because technology is getting better, it's ultimately you and I. We've changed because we all probably live in a world where work and play was very different. And most of the sessions I've heard this morning and yesterday talk about how those worlds have merged and how they kind of became sort of blended into one. So a little bit about me. That's my under 15s. The people in my office hear about them all the time. So we've played 21 games. We've lost once this season. My passion outside of work is coaching and making people better. I got roped into it when my son was 4 and they're 15 now. So I've been at it for a while. I've been at Tesco Bank for 7 years. I've been in banking for a long, long time. I was with RBS for 19 years. I'm not a banker though. I always tell people out front, I don't enjoy working in banking. I'm not cut out for banking. So, but I've enjoyed it. And most of my time in that period in HR has been fundamentally working and learning. So I do speak with a wee bit of authority in that I remember building computer-based training with 16 colours using 10 core DOS, and I went through multimedia and obviously into e-learning and whatever it is now. Within the bank, my responsibilities are I look after talent, I look after learning, employee engagement and recruitment, which is quite an interesting portfolio. But my passion is learning, and that's where hopefully you'll get the most out of me today. So, I kind of had a bit of a fit when I actually read the brochure that they printed, because the brochure said that I'd had enough of the cosy world of L&D jargon and all the fads. He's calling time on our obsession with the latest piece of shiny technology and asking a very simple question: what about the learner? Drawing his inspiration from disciplines outside L&D, his focus is very much on service design. In other words, servicing the needs of the employee who want to learn. So that was quite a wee brave thing to print in any magazine. And I feel if I failed to hit that this morning, then I apologise. So one thing I was going to do before we start is just for a minute, and you have to speak, is just chuck out some things that you might want to get from this, because the thing I hate the most about these sessions is that you can go along and somebody will show you 63 slides and you'll walk away and think, yeah, I bet it didn't go quite as well as that. I've made loads of mistakes in my career, and luckily I've survived most of them. But if there's anything you'd like me to cover, or you want me to focus on, or things that might have sprung to your mind when you registered into this, what were they? What are the things that spring to mind when you put your wee tick in the box? So, and anybody jump out? Yep.
Well, it's about making it stick, I think, first and foremost. It's making learning stick, making it a lifelong habit, inside and outside the workplace.
we'll do our best. Anything else? A couple more? Yep.
I'm wondering if your focus is servicing the needs of the employee who wants to learn,
Yeah.
what about those who aren't
Don't.
so keen?
Okay. Cool. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Anybody else? Yeah. What's worked? Yeah.
If you work across learning and
Yeah.
with talent, like how do you bring them all together?
Okay. Difficultly. Yeah, well, a great deal of difficulty, but we'll talk about that.
How do you get effective feedback?
We'll definitely talk about that. My pet hate, performance management. We'll get to that definitely. So, okay, cool. Right. Before we start, I'm going to show you a wee video. I think it's two or 3 minutes long, and it makes me smile, and it kind of hopefully makes you smile, and hopefully you saw the film when it was out. I used to do this with a film called Jerry Maguire, and I had to stop it because the more I did this, the audience got younger and younger, and half of them hadn't been born when Jerry Maguire had come out. But I think you'll all remember this film, so I'll leave you with.
Transformers pull 37% market share, and that we are targeting the same area. I think that we should see 1/4 of that, and that is 1/5 of the total revenue from all of last year. Thank you. Any questions? No.
Not for me.
Yes? Yes?
I don't get it.
What exactly don't you get?
It turns from a building into a robot, right?
Precisely.
Well, what's fun about that?
Well, if you had read your industry breakdown, you would see that our success in the action figure area has climbed from 27% to 45% in the last 2 years. There, that may help.
Oh.
Yes.
I still don't get it.
What?
What don't you get, Josh?
Well, there's a million robots that turn into something. And this is a building that turned into a robot. What's fun about playing with a building? That's not any fun.
This is a skyscraper.
Well, couldn't it be like a robot that turns into something like a bug or something?
A bug.
Yeah. Like a big prehistoric insect with maybe like giant claws that could pick up a car and crush it like that.
A prehistoric transformer.
Interesting.
Gentlemen, if
So the robot turns into a bug.
gentlemen,
You should listen
if
to
you
him.
would just...
You've got a very good idea here. The robot turns into a bug.
This is a great idea.
Someone said
water bug?
Different sizes and things.
Susan, we could do ladybugs.
You could have them wreck buildings.
Transformers for girls.
A building is an earth bug. Moves.
Yeah.
It's got all kinds of possibilities.
This doesn't just happen. This guy just doesn't happen. He doesn't just come to a meeting and say bugs.
Ants and stuff. And
Well done, Josh. Well done.
Okay, cool. So we used that video clip at an innovation session that we got trained up to do by an external company called Whyatt Smoke. And there's always a couple of questions that come after it, along the lines of what did you see, what did you notice? I think the first thing was he really struggled to put his hand up because actually everybody was like totally blown away by the numbers and the figures at the start. But he did put his hand up and he kind of just basically said, I don't get it. So I guess I probably put myself here in front of you today with a big hand up in the air and say a little bit, I don't get it. And I think I've not been getting it for the last couple of years, which is why I've been sort of reading, writing, tweeting, going to events and speaking to people. I think the second thing about the video clip when you do it with a group in innovation sessions is that when he comes up with a bug, the energy in the room starts to change and they start to co-create something. And we'll come back to that. So, okay, cool. So, got a few slides that I'm just going to rattle through. Thank you, Cheryl. She's here. She sent me the burst and stuff this week. So, I think Kate's had about 3 sets of my slides in the last week. I've kept changing them. But anyway, I'm a massive fan. So, a lot of things I'll talk about today is not just about L&D. So, I am an HR professional of 24 years. I've got a real issue with HR because I don't think HR has continually kept the pace with the things that are going on outside the organisation and the external environment. But one of the big things at the minute that I think we still haven't got to grips with is that the digital HR thing coming, is going to fundamentally change the way that we provide services and propositions. And again, it's not being critical of the guys downstairs because they're running businesses and they're relatively successful, but you know, it's the same suppliers largely that I saw 10 years ago, and some of them have splintered into other suppliers, and they're fundamentally still offering learning management systems, knowledge checking systems, and content management systems. And I was one of the mugs that bought a Palm Pilot 15, 16 years ago when we was talking about mobile learning and stuff like that. And we're still talking about mobile learning. And then when we talk about gamification, I don't really want to fly a spaceship and shoot, you know, things up and stuff like that and pass my regulatory training. But we need to kind of think very carefully about what this means for us in the wider sense of HR, in the wider sense of the consumer, the colleague. And I think what I've seen in the last couple of days in articles that I've read recently is there's a lot of people putting up the phrase learner as consumer, but they kind of slide past it. And nobody kind of digs into it and starts to explain what they actually mean, or some of the things that they start to try and do. So hopefully as we go through these, we'll kind of delve into it a wee bit more. I kind of like this slide. I actually like pictures. So in MBTI terms, I'm an ENFP. I've got a really short attention span. And I think my son has it. I've seen it already. He's 14. But it's interesting because bravely I would say in the organisation I work in at the minute, I actually think that I work in quite a hierarchical organisation in Tesco. You know, and obviously we've had our own troubles in the last couple of years, never mind as a bank, but as a supermarket. So try to make a change like this in an organisation where the organisation hasn't changed is very, very difficult. And a lot of us in the room probably today aspire to get towards the Today stuff, the Netflix, the Google, and the Amazon, stuff like that. But some of the foundations to allow you to happen within your organisation in terms of management thinking aren't there. And I just tweeted, actually, I came out of Ben Hammersley's session. And again, please, I'm not criticising the L&D professionals. I'm just giving some feedback. Is that I thought Ben's session was magic. I thought it was really, really insightful. But I'd really struggled to work out how many of us would be able to go back and give that message to our business. And I was in a conference before Christmas with our CEO, and he brought in the external thinkers from these big companies, and we talked about Metro Bank, Movin, and all these guys, the banks that are built on APIs. I actually think if I put Ben in front of Benny Higgins, my chief executive, he'd have a heart attack because he sees what's going to happen and the way things are going to go. And I think there is a real challenge for us as HR professionals, L&D professionals, to try and get some of those external messages back. This relates to the question about getting feedback. So I absolutely detest performance management, utterly detest it. And I always tell the story that, you know, you get up this morning, your alarm doesn't go off in time, you go downstairs, there's no Cocoa Pops left in the cupboard, the milk's off, there's no petrol in the car, you get stuck in traffic, you're late into work, and the first thing that appears in your inbox is the annual opinion survey. And for 364 days, you've been utterly on fire and happy with what you do. And this one morning when you're pissed off and you fill it in, that's it. Would you honestly buy something in a shop and be expected to be asked 12 months later, did you like it? No, you wouldn't. So the performance management thing within organizations, getting insight from colleagues on a more regular basis is a real thing that needs to change. And that for us as L&D professionals would be a massive thing. If you look at this as well, I'll make a really brave statement at the end. I might never get invited back, but this is happening now. So this is a consumerisation of the colleague. So basically, this is a platform called the portal's called Sidekick, and it's at the Commonwealth Bank in New Zealand. And basically, on your device, of which I can't actually believe I've put mine down for 5 minutes, but on your device, you can get everything on it. So I can be sitting on the train coming into work in the morning, and I can actually apply to my line manager for a holiday, or I can be actually looking at my benefit statement or my pay slip, or I can actually see some jobs that have been posted within the department, etc., etc. And I don't think there's enough joined up thinking across the whole HR piece. So the question about me owning talent, learning, leadership, etc., etc., we're starting to do that, and hopefully you'll start to see some of that example. But a great example would be in Tesco. We've just launched something down in Welling called the Colleague Room, which I think is a really pretty cool brand, the Colleague Room. But the Colleague Room is for you to go in and change your pension, and that's it. And I'm sitting there trying to speak to the guys in rewards, say, well, you've got a really good proposition there. Wouldn't it be really cool if you could get your benefits, your learning, your recruitment, etc., etc. So I think that's a wee conversation that's going to probably take a little bit longer to happen. But so this stuff is already happening. And then for the 24 years I've worked in HR, that's been it. And probably talent as a separate bubble in itself has probably kind of appeared in the last 4 or 5 years. But fundamentally, most HR organisations are structured like that. Now, the reason I got asked to speak today was at the LPI conference in London before Christmas, and Emma was with me, there was a room 101 session. I don't know if any of you were in it. And Donald was sort of chairing it, I think, and he was the chairperson. And they were allowed to change one thing that would make L&D better next year. And they actually voted to take L&D out of HR. And that got me so angry. Actually, I think I made a few comments on Twitter, and hence I got a phone call, right, you can come and speak about it in January, February. So basically, that for us is fundamentally what you would recognise as an HR function today. And these are all the things that HR professionals profess to know about: absence, turnover, morale, redundancy, dispute, blah, 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 blah. These are things that have already happened. They're already problems that have happened in your organisation. Okay? Our role as HR professionals and L&D professionals is to stop some of this from happening in the first place. And we'll get onto this a wee bit as well. So this is something that's really interesting me at the minute, and this helps us as L&D professionals as well. I sit on a board once a month. It's the Banking Operations Board. That's the guys that answer the telephone queries on credit cards, mortgages, savings and loans. And fundamentally why we all speak to a contact centre is because we'll have a problem on a day-to-day basis and we can't probably resolve it online. So basically contact centres live in a world of failure demand, and off the back of failure demand comes a continuous improvement stack where things get better. And again, things that we've started to, I guess things I've started to try and influence within the organisation and help my HR colleagues understand is that HR is not too dissimilar. HR actually on a day-to-day basis deals with a lot of transactional queries and demands that if we were able to actually treat the colleague a bit more like a consumer, we'd probably get more into the space on the right-hand side, which is value demand. So, what do we actually think the learner wants from us? Okay, why are we here? Why are we all paid on a monthly basis to work as L&D professionals? Why are the guys downstairs? So this was another really interesting image from the Bursting report this week as well. And this encapsulates it for me really, really quite neatly. And actually it encapsulates it really neatly for me from an HR colleague proposition, not just a learning proposition. So if you were to take all the HR information we have, or all the learning information we have, we were to put it in a shop window and articulate it back, my view would be that you could actually categorize it with three really, really simple questions. The first one, what do I need to support my success at the moment? So as a learner, as a learning team, I'm sure all the content we do on a day-to-day basis can support that. But actually thinking about a colleague wider, what do I need to support me and my success at the moment? Could be around my benefits, my job, my recruitment, etc., etc. And then the same thing applies for us. So what do I need to grow in my current role? What do I need to grow in my career? So I think what we think learners want from us and actually what learners really need for us is actually very, very different. And Laura and the Towards Maturity team have got a new report out, the Consumer Learning at Work, which I think comes out this month. And actually, there's a really cool statement in there that says, I think it was over 1,000 people interviewed, 69% of L&D leaders think that what they offer is not what the business needs, what the learners are actually wanting. So why are they doing it? Okay, so anyway, so start with the why. Okay, and there's a really, I don't know if you guys have seen the Simon Sinek stuff. This is really, really quite interesting for me. If you think about Apple and Microsoft, Microsoft set themselves out very quickly to build computers. They built the what. If we think about what Apple did is they started to consider the why are we actually here? And that's why they've been able to move into computers, phones, watches, etc., etc. So if you take this as an example, and actually somebody sort of said to me yesterday, I would actually have a different picture. I wake up in the morning and I need to get from A to B. And actually, one of the ways I can get from A to B is in a car. Okay? If I need to get a car and I don't have a car, then I need to go and buy one. But my outcome and my need is actually I need a car. So you can come to a bank like Tesco Bank. You can pay a deposit for your car on your credit card. You can set up a current account and a direct debit. And then you can pay off the loan that you get from us. And then you obviously would take out a car insurance product. But the bottom line is we started with the outcome, the want of the consumer, the customer. So if you then look at our website, and this does all become pertinent as we move through, if you then look at our website, used through our UX customer experience team, has been designed to look like this. So it doesn't say credit card, it doesn't say savings, it doesn't say mortgages, etc., etc. So it's bank, borrow, save, insure. It's outcome, insight led in terms of the way it's been actually designed. So if you think about what Ben was saying in the last room, and I'm not sure if I am a meat packer, not really sure, but if you look at the modern learner, again out of the Bursting report this week, the modern learner, the next generation of people that are coming into the organisation are going to be more distracted than ever before. Their habits are going to be far more promiscuous. They're going to want to get things much more quickly and in much speedier kind of response times. Probably not too dissimilar to all of us in the room that have a device in their hand who like to buy or shop online. So very, very similar. So what I've been kind of quietly pushing in the last 12 months, and probably try to push it a little bit harder now, is we as L&D professionals, as HR professionals above it, need to really seriously consider colleagues as consumers. And I guess what I mean by that is, colleagues, if you think about consumers and you think about us, there might be a number of us in the room at the minute that have an Amazon app on a phone. We probably all have very different profile settings in terms of things that come up, first of all. So we need to consider how that world outside is in our organisation, and actually how we start to look at the different preferences for learners and how people learn. And I've spoken to a few suppliers as I've been here, because I kind of felt we had to. And, you know, one of the best presentations I saw last year at Banking Operations was that the digital guys came in, and there was a really funky MI pack that was generated. And the first picture was like a heat map of the United Kingdom. And it basically showed you where all the Tesco Bank customers were who had devices and where they used them within the UK. And then there was another image which was really, really cool, which was when they used it. And the spike in the morning when people were commuting to work between, say, 6:30 and 9, and then after 5 at night through to 8, was quite kind of inspiring. Why couldn't we have a map like that for the way that learners learn within our organisations? Why wouldn't we give tools to learners to do stuff on the train coming into work? I'm sure for L&D professionals who've been here a lot longer, we probably all remember a time when we asked somebody to do something at work, they probably asked for overtime. Yeah? And probably we had to change our policies internally and we had to give people cash. People are far more likely to do things for themselves in terms of development if they see the benefit to them now than ever before. So, what we've been doing, how we've been digging into this a wee bit deeper. This is bleeding edge, okay? He bravely says sticking his neck on the block. I also stuck budget on the block for this, and if my big boss had found out, I think, so don't tweet that. If my big boss had found out I was doing it at the start, I don't think she would have been delighted. But what we did was, I appointed a colleague experience manager, Emma. She's sitting in the third row in. Emma was a graduate. She worked with the digital team in one of our rotations. And we spoke to the digital guys who own the app and the banking platform for the customer. And we asked them to help us. How do we go about working out what does the segmentation of colleagues within the organisation look like so we can design HR services, including learning, better? So we engaged with a company called Nile Design, who are based in Edinburgh, and we started to look at all the different things that people in the bank needed or wanted to ask questions of HR. And basically, we went through, I think it was about 4, 5, 6 weeks, thousands of interviews, and we ended up with all these post-it notes, of all the many different things that people want, colleagues want from us, a service provider within the organisation. And what that allowed us to do was start to see groups, themes, and trends of different types of service outcomes that colleagues wanted from us. And that then allowed us to start to look at, okay, if we were to try and understand what our customers look like, what would a persona be for somebody typically within the bank? And on the right-hand side is Nick. So we've ended up with basically 4 personas within our organisation. So this is something that the banking guys would have for customers outside. They would do the similar exercise. And actually, Nile Design said this was the first time they'd ever done it for colleagues. But we ended up with 4 personas. So you've got Nick without a K. So I thought, maybe I'm Dave without an E, but because it looked a wee bit trendier, although I'm older than that. So Nick, although we've taken the ages off, I think you said as well, Emma, didn't you? So we've got Nick, Amanda, Caroline, and James. Now, the idea of this is that you're not one of them. You can be a part of Nick, 2 bits of Amanda, 3 bits of Caroline, and maybe 1 of James. But it just starts to give you an idea around how the consumer, the learner that we all deal with on a day-to-day basis is structured and how they think. So if you look at Nick, busy family man, specialist in his field, limited experience of the people team, hates the outdated technology and systems at Tesco Bank, as does the HR function. But anyway, so he's probably going to be somebody that works in maybe risk or finance or audit or something like that. Okay, so they're going to have very different requirements. But then for each of the personas that we developed, we went in a little bit deeper. So we then started to look at Nick in terms of the dedicated expert. He's got these kind of communication styles around face-to-face, email, phone, instant message, intranet, video call, other. He's got this kind of ambition and career path within the organisation, which was going to be very different probably to somebody like Caroline or Amanda. Digging a wee bit deeper, we started to look at the relationship we had with the HR team, the people team. Okay, so pretty low touch, wasn't really bothered. We started to look at his learning style. So how did he like to learn? What kind of way did he like information presented to him? And actually what some of his frustrations were, frequent missions and potential missions. What that basically gave us was a really great personalisation picture to help us design products and services within the wider HR function. Now, it's early days. The work was just finished before Christmas, but we're starting to look at how we actually adopt it. So they're all kind of blowing up now in big A1 posters and picture frames, and hopefully they're on the wall by the time we get back tomorrow, which was a requirement. But anyway, so we're starting to try and re-educate the function. Now, if you came to visit me at Tesco Bank, one of the first places I would walk you around to would be the digital team who look after the customer internet site and the app. And when you walk around there, the whole office space is agile. So everywhere you go, everything's on the wall. And anybody that's been in an agile working space, it's very, very different. Everything's on the wall. The roadmap for development is all there. There's thousands of post-its always. And fundamentally what they're doing all the time is co-creating content. And if you think about the big clip at the very beginning, what they ultimately ended up doing at the end was co-creating content. Now, as an L&D professional of a long, long time, I don't think I've actually co-created much content in my career. And I'm sure most of you in the room might have done a wee bit of it, but you've probably never ever got consumers, users, learners into some of your design sessions as much as you probably could have done. Because what typically happens is a learning requirement appears in the business, they contact the L&D team, a statement of work gets drawn up, you either satisfy it internally or you ship it out in an email to supplier. Supplier sometimes comes back and says, would it be possible to speak to some of the learners who are going to use this? Learning and development normally say, no, you haven't got time, just give us a proposal back, we'll get it sorted out and we'll get the thing done. So one of the big game changers for us, I think, as an L&D profession and learning from what we do for customers is co-creation of content. Because you need to understand, we need to understand that using personas, you cannot design a program for one size fits all. You need to take into different account the different styles and the generation gaps that are in our organizations now. So, work in progress, we'll see how that goes. This is my hero currently, and there's loads of stuff written about him on Airbnb on Google. So this is a guy called Mark Levy, and it is something for us to pay attention to. So Mark Levy, so Airbnb, basically, we all know who they are. They're the largest holder of bedrooms in the world, a bit like Uber, but they have no bedrooms. They basically broker people's bedrooms or bedrooms in hotels. Airbnb removed the role of HR director in their organization, and they replaced it with a director of global employee experience. So Mark has basically the accountability for all the blue bubbles we saw earlier on, including the L&D, but he also has responsibility for the catering in the canteen, the buildings, the environment, how it feels, etc., etc. And what he set out to do is create a service design proposition for 3 key consumer groups. 1, me that books the bedroom, because I want to go and stay in it. 2, you, the person that has the bedroom that you want to use it, that you want to let out. And 3, the colleague. And he's basically tried to create a very, very consistent, constant, blended approach across the 3 things. And I would encourage you to go and see what he's doing online. And I know we're L&D professionals, but there's a really cool recruitment video from the lady that runs their recruitment to talk about how they've transformed their recruitment processes using consumer experiences, etc., etc. And on this particular picture, Mark is actually speaking at the Service Design Conference, which was in Scandinavia. And Niall were actually there. Niall were in the front row. And they said he was truly inspiring. And actually, everybody in the audience was gasping and sighing when they were talking about colleague as opposed to customer, which was a really, really radical step forward. So what are we trying to do with this? And it is really, really early days. My ambition, my dream, so to speak, and my guys are bored of hearing it, is I actually hope this is nicely, this is the bit where I don't get invited back, but I actually don't understand why there would be a Learning Technologies conference next year. Discuss. So I was here 10 years ago, and the girl asked me, what's different? And I said, us, the people, we're different. But fundamentally, it's just technology and content. It's not really any different. What I would love to see, and maybe I should patent it, what I would love to see is a conference in this building at this time next year that has the recruitment guys here, with the learning guys here, with the benefits guys here, with all the other aspects of the colleague proposition. Why wouldn't you have? I mean, I've seen some really great vendors downstairs with really great platforms that talk about badges, achievement badges, yeah? Well, why wouldn't I get 3 achievement badges and get something in my reward portfolio? Why wouldn't that join up? So where we're at just now within our organisation, and it is a really slow burn, and I'm not really confident that we'll pull it off at Tesco Bank, is that we're trying, because of my luck through having the portfolio I've got, we're trying to help all the other areas, the centres of expertise, as we traditionally call them, understand how the whole proposition joins up. So one of the things that we will do this year is start to look at the service design journey, almost create like a nuclear power station of processes that say from the minute you think about joining Tesco Bank to the minute you exit, when you cut across learning, reward, all that kind of stuff, how does it join up? Because if we're all really honest in the room, we kind of sit in our own little bubble and do our own little thing. And actually one of the biggest things that stops us from doing it is ourselves. So again, not a criticism, I'm an L&D guy as well. So we're starting to look at basically how we can start to join some of these things up. And what will enable us to do something hopefully quite radically this year is, we were told we were getting a new internet at the bank. The comms guys told us we were getting a new internet at the bank. We are so not getting a new internet. We are getting a colleague platform. We are going to get Office 365 with a new internet, with Skype for Business and Yammer, and a module called ServiceNow. And all those things collectively together will fundamentally transform how we deal with colleagues in our organisation. I am so confident that this will be such a great platform that I'll be able to switch my LMS off. Because actually all I have in my LMS is class management, online testing, and regulatory training. And I'm actually already getting challenged by the CFO to say, your regulatory training is rubbish. Because actually, I've been here 6 years. Do I have to do this every year? There must be a different way of doing this now. So this stuff is coming into organizations. We need to think about what we can do to influence it. I actually firmly believe, and I said this at LPI, I firmly believe as any function within HR, you lot in the room, me, we have the biggest opportunity to change how HR looks at this. We are the most consumer-focused group in HR. We are the ones that speak to most colleagues on a day-to-day basis through the interventions we run and the development stuff we do. Reward don't go out and speak to the colleagues. Recruitment don't really either, they just post jobs. L&D are the ones that see most of the colleagues in the organisation. We have the biggest chance to make this change. So, if you think about the website I showed you earlier on, bank borrow, blah, blah, all that kind of nonsense, this actually could mean new jobs in HR. So I bravely replaced a headcount in my team with a colleague experience manager. So I've got a colleague experience manager. That's not a typical HR job. We had an insight and engagement person who previously ran the employee opinion survey. So she's now looking at insight. So rather than once a year, performance management, how do we get constant insight? How do we get feedback on the failure demand to make the services we offer, the courses we offer, better? So if we were to relaunch, I'm not saying this is what it's going to look like, but if we were to relaunch the colleague room, the new internet platform, you know, for me it's about attract, develop, reward, engage, retain, that kind of stuff. So we are doing some stuff though around making it stick, and we are using marketing techniques, and probably one of the most successful things we've done in the last sort of 12, 18 months is that there's nothing easier than asking a learner, or a colleague, sorry, why does learning matter to you? And actually, how many times do you actually ask people? And that's one of the big things that Mark Levy's hot at. He will go out and speak to people in the organisation and ask them, not what they want, how do they feel, and what would make them better. So basically, we ran a campaign with the help of Cheryl, one of our associates, 18 months ago, where we literally did just go out and get 12 colleagues and actually ask them the question, why does learning matter to you? And we videoed them. And actually, that's a touchscreen TV, and they're all different little video clips, and they actually bring to life why learning is important to them. And for some of them, it's about their career and their growth and their aspirations to move on. For some of them, it's just about actually helping them on their job day to day. Some of them all work in the same department, but they've got very, very different needs. And for me, that comes back to the whole personalisation and kind of looking at people a little bit differently. I think one guy actually wrote a song. He was a folk singer, and he brought his guitar to his video, and he sang a song about why learning was important to him. We also do quite a lot of marketing. We could do more. So again, just using simple marketing techniques, you know, using people within the business, trying to bring, you know, the place to life type thing. I think HR functions, it's interesting, right? We're in 3 cities, Glasgow, Newcastle, Edinburgh, and we have 4 buildings, we have 2 contact centres. And I kind of had a fallout with the marketing director chap before Christmas because we spend a fortune marketing in shops and stores because we don't have branches, that's our USP. But we spend a fortune marketing in stores the products and services we offer. But we never market what we offer in our 4 other shops, our contact centres and our offices where the people work and they speak to customers. So you could actually phone somebody in Tesco Bank, it's not a criticism, you could phone somebody in Tesco Bank and potentially be more knowledgeable on a particular product because you've seen it in the shop. than the people in the contact centre. And I just don't think we get the importance of bringing the colleague to life. And one of the things that I found really difficult, and I'm not brave enough to say this to Dave Lewis, the Chief Executive, is Tesco always talk about customer first. I don't agree. I really don't agree. And don't tweet that one. But for me, it is totally about getting the colleague proposition right and actually making the colleagues feel proud, passionate, and advocates of the organisation that they work in. Then the customer doesn't come second. The customer will benefit from the way people feel. So, okay, this was a nice, really cool Steve Jobs kind of quote. So to design experiences, you must experience the journey for yourself. You've got to start with the customer experience and work back towards the technology. So I do think we're a little bit obsessed with technology and content. And you can smile and nod your heads or shake your heads, and that's my view. I don't think we put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer, the colleague, the learners, as much as we should do. I don't think we bring colleagues in to our discussions and our co-creation sessions as much as we should do as well. All that stuff that Ben Hammersley talked about this morning, all the stuff in the Bursting Report, all the stuff you learn at home with your kids. I mean, Ben's 14 and Holly's 9, and they both have their phones taken off them every night because they can't help themselves. That's happening whether we like it or not. That's just the way things are going to be. And these are the guys that are going to come into our organisation, so we need to kind of keep that in mind. So anyway, how can you all help? This would be, if we do have learning technologies next year, and I don't get invited back, these are all quotes that are on the signs downstairs. You go to any trade stand, there's loads of flashy quotes for people with checkbooks. And they all tell you nicely how they're going to transform your organisation and radically improve what you do. Let's just pretend like Extreme Makeover, we all went home tonight and we all came back tomorrow and we all came back just as learners. I'd be curious to see what would be on the banners then. Because as a learner, I don't really give a toss if it transforms the organisation. I really don't. And I think the what's in it for me thing and trying to understand the needs of people is so important. I know it has been 10 years, but there must be some huge bills downstairs for some of those stands. Right? And as a buyer, that just says to me, that's going to be on my bill. Okay? We are all more informed than ever before. We don't need that downstairs like that. So my one ask for learning technologies next year is, if it is on, is do a wee bit more work on your trade stands and think about the learner, the people that are going to use it. So, and I think, to be honest, the guys downstairs probably can help us a bit more. I've seen a few of the stalls and that, and my session might not have been great either, but there's far too much jargon, far too much L&D jargon still. It's not consumer-centric. And I think a lot of that sometimes comes down to us in the room. I think we're all quite culpable at different times of being quite jargon-orientated. So anyway, that's it. My watch vibrated, so I used my stopwatch. I used my Apple Watch. That's all I use it for, football on a Saturday. So anyway, you know what? If you took one thing out of it, magic. If you took two things out of it, that's amazing. Any more than that, I've surpassed myself. If you took nothing out of it, I'm slightly worried. So it's just my opinion. I've been in it a long time. I've been in it over 20 years. It was my big moment. I don't get it. Simple as that. It's not complicated. We live in a very, very simple world. So that's it.
Super job. Thank you very much. Right then, people, now it's your turn. Let's get some Q&A going. You've got him trapped, the door's shut, and I'm not letting him out. So if I come and start with you, and we'll get some questions going. Here you go, man.
Yep. I understand what you're saying about, if you can track people's internet usage, it's fantastic, and you can see where they're learning and when they're learning. But do you not think there's a danger at just because someone's learning at 5 to 8 o'clock in the evening, it's not through choice, it's because they have to. And that then becomes an expectation from the company that's when people will learn, and that puts people under pressure. Yeah. So, thoughts on that?
I think fundamentally people, if you think about us as a bank, the biggest ask we have with them is regulatory training every month. I think we do 24 modules a year. That's horrific. I would not want to sit and watch hours of the learning 24 times a year. Fundamentally, people need to learn in the office, but I think if people want to develop themselves further, I think people will make a choice. And again, I think what the personas give us is that we know that there will be people who just do the minimum and come in and do what they need to do in the working time, but at the same time, if there are people committed to their careers, they probably will go a little bit further. So it's not about kind of suckering them into doing it almost. It's just a case of giving them another choice or another style or another kind of channel. So
Anyone else? Ooh, right down the back, hang on.
Learning sticks.
Weight loss program, be a session chair.
That was a
Here we go.
tricky one.
There you go.
Is he going to ask it
That's
again?
bad, I've forgotten now. Is this on? I think it is.
Yeah.
I can't think of any company that's under more scrutiny than you guys.
Yeah.
Not only you in banking, you're also at Tesco's, and I'm just wondering about the impact of that whole, complex set of external circumstances in terms of, are your learners keener or less keen?
Yeah.
I mean, they must be thinking, I've got to keep my day job here. Learning is really secondary.
Don't ever come to Amsterdam with me. They've heard the Amsterdam story. Do not ever come to Amsterdam with me, ever, right? Because I was in Amsterdam when the share price in RBS went to 8 pence, when Robert Peston told that story, and I was at RBS. And I remember lying back in my bed as I was away to tell ABM people how good we are. That didn't go well. I was also in Amsterdam at another conference when I was at Tesco, and we decided that we'd lost £165 million somewhere. You know what? Yeah, I mean, job security. The tanker is turning around. I mean, this is just my view on Tesco at the minute, so please, we better not tweet this stuff, but we're very similar to RBS. Forget the bank, Tesco. We're very similar to RBS. We've probably got a little bit too big for our boots. We've probably got into a number of different markets that we shouldn't have got into. I mean, did we really honestly think we were going to beat the tablet with Samsung and Apple and come up with a huddle? No. So some poor decisions were made over the last few years. The new chief executive, Dave Lewis, is an exceptionally inspiring guy. He's came from the supplier side. He's came from Unilever. There's a bit more heart and passion back in the organisation, but there are still people who are dissenters and probably not completely convinced. The HR function that I work in at the bank is hugely high performing. I've lost 3 of my guys, including Alan, to the group because all theirs have gone. So there's a lot of work still to be done in terms of trying to give people positive messages around engagement, development. Reward's such a hard one. I mean, I work in a bank, but I have a pay scale that's matched to a supermarket. So try to retain and keep people in the bank on a retailer package is not a particularly easy thing in Edinburgh, which is the financial capital of Scotland. So, I mean, there's some major challenges around learning and development without going into them too open in the room. We haven't got it right in our stores. We don't have a really great infrastructure for putting training out to people. We're still very old in terms of an HR function, so we talk about personnel managers, etc., etc. We do too much for managers, in my opinion. I think managers need their backsides smacked a little bit more. We wipe their backsides at the minute, so it's a huge journey for us as an organisation. I think we're only at the start. I mean, that's 1 year on since we lost the money, or we announced it. So, but I mean, we were the most successful supermarket over Christmas. We won. In the 6 weeks over Christmas, we were the most successful supermarket in terms of trade. And actually, the employees played a huge part in that. And that's my point about, I know customer first, but I think it started with the employees. And we don't shout about it enough, so.
There we go. Oh, good. You're close. That's lovely.
Sorry.
There you go.
Hi Dave, I'd like to know a bit more about how you co-create content with your users, because I think that's really important, but I'd like to know how you've managed to make that work and what the key success factors are.
Yeah, I mean, the last successful example of it, so I still think we're at the beginning of that journey. The last successful example for me would be a big leadership program that we rolled out within Tesco, and it was called Leaders at Tesco. The organisation ripped up the leadership framework, which is the usual leadership framework, 27 pages and lots of different levels of being that kind of leader. And we went with 5 leadership skills: innovation, collaboration, responsiveness, resilience, and empathy. And we rolled it out from the top of the organisation right down to the bottom. And basically, we took people out for 2 or 3 days, depending on what level, because more important people don't want to be out as much. And actually, rather than us run all the people through the 5 leadership skills, we took them through 2, we taught them 2, and then we got them to teach each other the other 3. So during the 3 days, they were put into small groups, and they were each given a leadership skill, innovation, collaboration, and asked to create a session for 45 minutes long that they would then run back, which was interactive. And what was really cool is that every cohort that went through the program would do probably innovation differently. So we started to build up a real knowledge and energy in the organisation. So that technique is something that we at the bank are keen to keep doing with programs that we're going to do this year. Interestingly, though, Tesco have almost retrenched and gone back to quite a traditional way. So I'm at a meeting on Wednesday to try and stop that from happening. So, but in terms of the digital stuff, in my view, Emma should report also dotted line to the guy who runs the internet and the app, because I want as much as that digital thinking, content co-creation into the workspace, that where we kind of play in that area. It's interesting because the guy, Phil Robertson, who owns the app and the internet, I said to him last week, and he wasn't very happy, why don't you own the internet? Because actually, the team you've got, like tons of UX designers, and the way you work, Agile, is just as equally the same as what we would do both channels. I think he's just got probably too much in his work stack at the minute. So, but I mean, co-creation of content. I mean, you know what's sad is you will have I know I've worked with suppliers who've said to me, "Can I meet your consumers?" And I probably have on a number of occasions said, "No, just give me the proposal. I'll deal with it." And actually, that's probably says more about me at that time being not a particularly bad leader, but not as good a leader as I probably could have been. So, because these guys downstairs will be thinking about service design and what they're building, and it's remiss of us not to let them into our organisations to try and help us. The platform we currently have in Tesco, I remember having a conversation without naming the company. I remember having a conversation with the company who put it in, and it was, I think, personally for me, it's been a disaster in the main Tesco business. And I remember saying to the guy that was involved in that, "Why did you let that happen?" "Well, because that's what they wanted." And I said, "Well, I had more respect for you, X, because I thought you were a consultant, and what you've given them is a poor proposition and a poor service. And I think you should let the suppliers challenge you." And I don't think we do. So hopefully that helped.
I'm mic-less, so whoever's next going to have to shout or talk at me. Any more questions? Come on. Yes. Oh, good. There we go.
You know what's really funny, right, is a funny one. On Friday afternoon, I ran 2 insight groups with a director in Glasgow at Broadway 1, a contact centre, and there were 20 people came through it, work level 1, work level 2. We're quite a flat organisation, we only have 5. And at the very end, we kind of said to them, it was to do with the employee opinion survey, if we could change one thing this year, right, that would make you feel better and more likely to stay, what would it be? And they actually, most of them said, change the dress code back to business casual. Because last August, we had a whole month of dress down for charity, and the personnel director, in her wise decision with Benny Higgins, chief exec, said, we should just be casual, because actually, that's what people really want. We took a decision at the very top that wasn't a decision that people wanted, and actually the contact centres where you think they would want it, didn't want it. And they were all saying on Friday, back to business casual or a wee bit smarter. In terms of the retention strategy, we're playing heavily now in the apprenticeship space, so we're trying to bring in school leavers. We do have a graduate programme. Not being disrespectful of Emma, who was a graduate, I don't think it's working. I think graduates are more promiscuous. And I get you have to give them the opportunity, but we're seeing quite a few of our graduates move on quicker. In terms of people leaving quicker, I think we can stop some, but you can't stop people moving on. So I think what we need to have is more agile recruitment strategies to get people in more quickly. And I just had an email there from Tom Spence, a graduate, who'd said PwC had put a request into Tesco Bank to advertise the graduate programme on our ATMs. So Tesco has the largest ATM network in the United Kingdom. Because obviously if you think of the number of stores, we've got the biggest ATM network. So PwC want to use our ATMs to hire people into their company. And I'm sitting there thinking, why are we not doing that to hire people into the bloody bank? So I think it's a number of things. I don't think it's just the L&D piece. I think it's the whole attraction piece. We're also bringing people in, and I know it's dead easy to say, for attitude, not skill. So we're not bringing in financial services people, we're bringing in the right people from a customer service background. Because one of the big things we've got, which others don't have, is we don't have targets. We don't have big contact centre dashboards and stuff like that floating above people's heads. You know, we'd rather people stay on the phone for a reasonable amount of time to resolve something at the first point of need. So, it's not the bank that I wanted to work for, if I'm being really honest. And I said that on Friday. I didn't join Tesco Bank to work for a bank like this. I think we became a small RBS, HSBC. I think we still have an opportunity to be a bit more like Google, Nike, etc. But that's up to the chief executive to set that vision. So, sorry.
Good Lord, a microphone. I'm not an HR professional, but I have been reading about learning styles being a myth, and you've talked about learning styles quite a bit. Do you mean them in the sort of theoretical sense, or do you just mean, reading it at home or reading it on the train kind of thing?
Yeah, it was interesting. I showed this to somebody yesterday, and actually it was something from good practice, and they hate the phrase learning styles, so I was going to speak to you about changing that phrase, but I think it's just preferences that are taking information. I mean, learning a lot of the time is, I remember there was a really cool job in Scotland last year, and it was at Sky, and it was called Director of Know-How, and it was a merge of the communications function with the knowledge management function and the L&D function, and it was a new director to bring it all together, because ultimately what a lot of the stuff we get when we're on a training course is information. So for me, it's about how do people like to take information in. It actually, so it's less about your learning style, it's probably more about your preference in terms of how you actually want to take it. So I've always been open a DVD box and plug it in and see what happens, as opposed to an open a DVD box and read the manual and have a go. Because actually now you've got the open a DVD box and there's a quick one-page quick start thing. So I think it's easy to talk about learning styles, but actually to actually apply it into learning, it can be a little bit quite complex. So yeah. But all those phrases like learning styles and mobile learning and gamification, they've been around for most of us for quite a long time. I don't think we've really kind of cracked it. So.
Anyone else? Oh, right, hang on.
Cool.
I shall come back to you in a sec. There's a quick draw. Why are you always at the back?
Whyatt touched on the core content creation. Has that been different for the likes of the leadership programme as the regulatory stuff that we have to go through?
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory stuff to an extent has been dictated to us by the risk function largely, although last week the CFO spat his toys at the pram and sent an email to the Chief People Officer and said, I'm bored with regulatory training, which luckily we'd actually allocated the graduates this year onto a control project to look at it over the space of, I think we're going to do a 3-day hack. We're going to lock them in a room, we're not going to feed them or anything, and they're going to look at what we do now, what could we do, and how we move it to the future. And I'm not saying this is the right answer, but instead of doing 40 minutes of e-learning, maybe I'd prefer to watch a 5-minute video on somebody who's an expert in money laundering and do 5 questions on a knowledge test. And then rather than do my knowledge test once a year, I maybe do my knowledge test once a quarter. Because if it's only 5 questions, it's maybe easier to do it like that. So, yeah. But I don't think we've been brave enough to recommend back. I think we've just hid behind the FCA and the PRA, our regulator. Because actually, if you speak to the regulators, they'll probably tell you, we're not really bothered. So there's 2 people nodding their heads, shaking up there. Right, no more regulatory training. So, is that it? Or one more?
Have we got one more?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. There we go.
Hi there, Dave. I think you said at one point that when you show people around, you take them to the digital team first of all, and then you showed that nice kind of collaborative, dynamic learning space or whatever. And talked about the co-creation of content and all the rest of it. How transferable is that? How do other staff look on that space? Do they want that space? Do they recognise that as a dynamic learning environment and productive, or is it like, oh, that's just the digital team?
I think that's a really cool thing that you just said there, and I never instantly thought about it, but it is actually a learning environment. It's a workspace for them, but they have all the meetings are stand up. They don't go and sit in rooms, so they stand around tall desks. They've got these really cool magnetic cards, which have got all the fix and fail problems for our app and our internet site. I think it's the case of try and see. I mean, we've got a really old-fashioned HR director. That's the problem to start with. We've got a few people like me who are trying to take it to the next level, but most of the guys who work in HR currently are quite traditional. But I think it's just through trial and error. I mean, we did that weather smoke thing. We did a weather smoke session with the whole of HR, used the big stuff and all that before Christmas. And we set some challenges around, because I think most HR professionals are not even sure about why they're here. What is your purpose as an HR professional? What is our purpose as L&D professionals? Why are we here? Do we actually know why we're here? So, and it's changed so much that I think it's time that we actually kind of rethought the question. But it would be easy for me to say that it'll work in HR, but I think it will. And the initial things that we've done have proven quite successful. I mean, even just putting stuff up on the glass where we sit and putting ceiling signage up, which is what we're trying to do just now, to make it a better work environment. I mean, I'd love to put in pool tables and barista machines and all that, like the Google guys down in London, but it's a slow burn at the minute, so I'll get there. Or I'll leave and go somewhere else and do it, so never know. But I like that learning. It is a learning space, it is totally.
I think that's the flip, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because every workspace should be a learning space. And
Yeah.
if it isn't, there's something fundamentally wrong.
Especially 70-20 with a 70-20 bit. Yeah, that's nice actually. Cool. Okay.
Anyone else? Are we done?
Right.
It's because we're heading for lunchtime.
Yeah.
So there's
you're all hungry.
scenting the sandwiches.
Listen, it was just an opinion. As I said, I'm an old man with grey hair now, so take what you need from it. And if you want to speak to me, you can find out. I tweet lots about football, X Factor, The Voice, and all that kind of stuff, as well as learning. So, thank you very much for coming.
Super. Thank you.